What was the tipping point of your last relationship? I was leaving the gym and told her I would be over to her apartment in about 45 minutes after I showered. I kid you not. At the 45-minute mark she was texting me upset that I wasn't there yet. I apologized and told her I had to go to the bathroom so it's taking a little longer, but I was on my way and almost there. Showed up at about the 50-minute mark. She would not open the door beyond leaving the security latch attached, and only to tell me to frick off. So, after about 5 minutes of trying to reason with her to let me in and her responding that she didn't want to hang out anymore because I took too long because I was probably talking to some hoe at the gym, I decided to leave. When I got back to my apartment I figured might as well entertain myself and play some video games. About 40 minutes later she shows up to my place banging on the door. I happily opened the door thinking she changed her mind. She sees that I was clearly playing video games and enjoying a glass of wine. Walks over and picks up the wine and throws it on the ground. Pee off that I found something to do other than stare at the wall because she didn't want to hang out with me. She sees how in shock I am at her reaction and tries to brush up the broken wine glass with her bare hands. She is bleeding and crying and I am in shock and pleading with her to stop because she is tearing her hands up. I suggest she leaves and that was the last time we were in the same room together. What a whirlwind of a relationship that was. Sweet baby Jesus. We moved into a house together and things were a little on the rocks, but I figured I could work a little harder and she would too. I had my doubts as she was a control freak and really only took what I said about things at face value. Really saw that later on after we split. We had a huge fight about the living room paint color. She said it was just awful and couldn't put up with it. We went round and round about it for a week or so until I finally just decided I could concede on this one, but that I got to choose the bedroom color. She described it as a cream color, but like adding too much creamer to coffee. Disgusted was a word for it. I want to say. Anyhow, I'm standing in the paint aisle on my day off and utterly exhausted from a week of work and remodeling. I'm dead but tired and she's combing through the paint swatches. She finds the color and we get it mixed. We end up in an argument in the car as I'm opting for bed and she wants to paint. I told her it is better to do it during the day so we can open the windows and let it air out better. It was currently raining and I didn't want watermarks. It escalated and grew until she finally just got soapy that she left. I decided to be nice and start painting the opposing window wall to at least show her I heard her thoughts. I got it all mixed up and dipped the roller. Rolled over once and it all hit me at the exact same time. I was sick of her and her controlling attitude. I was done feeling like an butt for things I didn't do wrong. I was tired of living her dream life. You know why it hit me? That paint was the exact same dang color as the wall. Whoa, did you end up keeping the place or breaking the lease? Things had been going downhill for a long time, and we ended up in marriage counseling, which was actually what did us in. Sitting in a room with her refusing to listen to me and her own counselor about things going on in our relationship really clued me into fact that things weren't going to get better. When she drove 4 hours to meet me at the hospital where my mom was dying. We had not been together for long but she comforted me in such a way that I could never forget. I knew I loved her and I married her 1 year later. Yes, a good tipping point. He told me he had to go to Minnesota for a couple months on business but actually bought a house there and was planning on tricking me into moving there with him. A few weeks after we started dating I caught a really bad sickness. I was lying in bed and coughing for days. The entire time she brought me soup and a steady supply of cough drops and tissues. This might seem small but I think it set the tone of our relationship and I'll always remember that. We have been together for 3 years going strong. He was on a 5-day bender ignoring every single one of my messages until I said I'm leaving you. Then he said he was gonna kill himself if I leave him. Something he said every time I tried to leave. I simply said okay, blocked him and sent an ambulance to his house. When the ambulance got there his friend sent me a ton of abusive messages saying why the frick would you do that act. Turns out the paramedics walked in on her sucking his dong. I'm sorry but I genuinely found this super funny. When she finally started to sober up from the year's worth of prescription meds and immediately said I don't want to be married anymore. It's weirdly common for people to get divorced right after they get sober. She started telling me how she had to defend me to my friends after I had to miss watching a show with them to go into work. My friends told me that wasn't true and she spent the entire time crap talking me. And I bet she hated drama. Like, a lot. I got tired of carrying her to bed after her nightly binge drinking. Also, her complete denial of being an alcoholic and refusing to get help. Edit. Corrected autocorrect failure. That sounds like the girl I currently have living with me. No relationship, but she's adamant she's not an alcoholic but falls asleep on the couch after drinking all night and I have to drag her ass to her bed. Standing in the kitchen early in the morning trying to work out if I would get more told off for taking my boyfriend, now ex's tea up in the wrong mug, not his favorite one, or for making a noise washing up his favorite one. Freaking narcissist control freak with misophonia. Oh crap. Just learned I might have misophonia after looking it up. I've started walking around with earplugs and headphones in all the time around family and others. Month after month after month. Excuses why he couldn't pay rent. And yet he would spend all his income on eating out, online gaming memberships, etc. Would also try to guilt trip me into getting him stuff constantly. One day we went to visit relatives in another state during the week before Christmas and my uncle snapped. He told him off about how he is manipulative and can see that what he does has dragged me down as a serious burden. I didn't attempt to intervene. He was absolutely right. And after we left, ex bitched me out for not stepping up for him. We broke up the day after and suddenly I felt like I could breathe again. When we went on a 16-hour each way road trip and didn't kill each other, knew I was going to marry her after that trip. Yeah, happy tipping point. He was going out during the night to see 2 other girls, too, and when I saw him during the morning he would be tired as heck, because obviously he was out, and tell me he had sleeping issues. I found out he was cheating on me with the 2 girls when they both saw me hugging him and went to scream at me. For the calmer part, the 3 of us agreed to leave him and not talk to him again, and I'm still a friend with one of them. Took out the trash and gained a friend. I'd call that a win. We went to a new country for both of us, Netherlands. I'm Portuguese, she is Polish. I got a job, she didn't. She became P and started stressing. I got a better job, she got an average one. Stress continued. So, in order to get an even better job she applied to work in another country, Italy. Got accepted and soon our relationship was over. Sometimes I envy you Europeans. We were doing long distance and had been having problems for a long time and had been trying to work through them or staying together despite how overdue a breakup was. Whichever. Anyways, I flew home to visit him for his day and felt like I was going to have a panic attack the whole time I was there. We had some fun and didn't fight a ton, but I was super tense. Finally, I get back and it just felt like such a relief. A couple months later, he was just about to visit me and we got in a fight and he threatened to cancel his trip and not come. Something he did frequently when he visited. At first I argued against the idea but then actually considered it and realized what a weight off it was. Honestly, that's the worst. When you realize you'd just rather not be around them anymore. Nothing personal but just go away. I wish there had been a tipping point. But our relationship just died a very slow death because she had gradually been losing interest. Turns out she never actually left her ex-boyfriend and I found out when she blew up about me adding a picture of us together to my Facebook. I was in a similar situation. I was dating this girl who I was positive was dating other guys. So she emailed me once and it had like 30 other people on the email. So I did reply all saying, hey, I'm this girl's boyfriend, is anyone else dating her? It turned out the parents of the guy she was also dating was on that email list. She would threaten me with physical violence and self-harm for years if I ever left her. I was made to choose between my friends or her. Certain threats made if I choose friends over her, etc. Having to be in contact with her at all times if I wasn't with her. Going through my phone and years of messages with my closest friends whilst I'm asleep etc. Deciding who I could follow on Instagram. Be friends with on Facebook based off how attractive they were or if she deemed them as a threat etc. Even if they were long-term friends. Makes me feel sick thinking about it all again. Crazy crap. I was younger and didn't realize how abusive she really was. Lost a lot of friends because of her. She eventually did another one of her fake breakups and I decided not to crawl back to the person that would always tell me that no one else would ever love me, etc. Said okay, I'll pick up my stuff tomorrow or something along those lines, and then she obviously freaked out realizing I wasn't falling for her tricks and playing into her usual games. Haven't seen or heard from her in 4 years now. I dealt with that same kind of thing a while back. It's crazy and frustrating how much they manage to wrap you around your finger with that one. I'm glad you're out of that one. Man, it sucks, but she just kept getting drunk and going crazy. I had to call the police on her because she took a bunch of pills when I left during one of her binges. She would call me at night often, drunk as heck, and yell at me, and then threaten to cut herself when I refused to come over at 1 in the morning. She still drinks to this day. We had been together for 5 years. She started dating someone else for the last 5 months of our relationship. I work night shift as a police officer and I only found out because I realized I left something at home when I left for work and went home to get it around midnight, and this random guy was sleeping in my bed and my girlfriend was nowhere to be found. She was making a run to Walgreens. I would not want to be a random guy waking up to a police officer. I bet you put some serious fear in that guy. We went on a trip to Boston together. She had kids, so this was our first chance to get away together. Just the two of us. We were at a Red Sox game and I noticed she was acting strange, being quiet and distant. Normally she was always a bubbly, happy person. For the rest of the trip she just shut down and was no longer present. She wouldn't talk about what was bothering her. The next day after getting home we talked on the phone and I finally got it out of her that it was over. Found out later from a mutual friend that I bored her and she only realized it when we finally spent an extended period of time together. Threw a frying pan at my head, ducked it, started telling me she was going to call the police and accuse me of hitting her. Dodge a freaking bullet there, dude. Well, you dodged a frying pan, but also a bullet. Got really sick last March out of nowhere, and doctors initially thought it could have been colon cancer. I was only 23, so this obviously had me shaken to my core. They expedited everything and a week after I first went in for my symptoms I was getting put under for them to take a closer look and get biopsies. Girlfriend knew what time the procedure was and roughly how long it would last. When I came to, I turned my phone on and was blown up from friends all over the US and the world. So middle of the night for them asking me what the results were and how I was doing. No text from girlfriend. About an hour later she texted me saying, "Are you freaking serious?" and I asked what she was talking about. She responded that someone dinged her car door at work. I didn't respond. She then asked me how the procedure went and what the results were. She knew I was upset and said she figured I'd just tell her later. With my symptoms, the doctors told us if it was colon cancer, it would have to be pretty bad at this point. But yet she was fine with waiting an entire day to hear how I was. Luckily it wasn't cancer. I broke up with her not long after. Turns out the real cancer was her. She was moving to another city 4 hours away and tried to keep it a secret till the last minute until I overheard one of her family members talk about it. She could have just told me and worked it out. She was talking about how hot her friend was and I was like, "You ever think you might just be into ladies?" and she started crying. We're still friends and honestly not the worst breakup. Good for you to be there for her. He choked on a burrito. No one could do the Heimlich on him. He passed out and almost died. I was at the hospital and while they were clearing out the burrito that he aspirated, a nurse handed me his clothes, including the pants he crapped in when he had passed out and lost consciousness and control of his bowels. For a few minutes due to suffocation, I took them home and washed them without blinking. We've been married for 2 years now. This is a beautiful story. I wish I had someone I could crap my pants around and would still take good care of me and love me. When I realized she wouldn't ever stop playing the victim card, I'd be apologizing for the rest of my life for stuff that was her fault. It wasn't the chemtrails or the anti-vax thing that broke the deal. It was the fact that she was genuinely an butthole sometimes to me and her reasoning was, "That's just how I am." People who excuse their cruelty, dickishness, and selfishness as being honest and "that's just who I am," take their word for it. They're telling you they're buttholes, so just believe it and move on. It had been a short, rocky, abusive relationship. She had been physically fighting me, and one time in particular she had bit a huge chunk of my arm out. She spit it out like a sunflower seed shell and smiled all creepy, and her teeth were tinted with my blood. I knew then that there was absolutely no help for this relationship, and I was 100% disgusted and no longer loved this person. What the frick? There was no tipping point. The whole table was just pulled out from under me. It was just suddenly there's another woman. I've been seeing her this past month. When I tell you I'm going to my dad's, I'm staying with her and leaving you. Get out of my house. The other woman was his dad's girlfriend's sister, almost twice his age, with 2 kids. He was mid-20s. We'd been together the better part of a decade and living together for 5 years. It was very strange and very sudden. This was nearly 5 years ago. As far as I know, they're still together. I know a little bit about how that last part feels. First girlfriend and I break up. She rebounds a month later with a 50-plus-year-old. They're still together 10 years later. Yuck. Aside from just being a trifling woman, I decided to try an experiment to see if she would initiate conversation with me, and it took over a week. I've debated trying that experiment, but I also don't think relationship tests are healthy. 7 hours before I had a big test, she wanted to argue. There was no not arguing with her. If you stayed quiet, she kept going. If you disagreed, she kept going. If you took her side, you were lying. 2 hours into the fight, I tried to ignore her and go to bed. She told me to admit we're through. Might this be a way out? I said yes. She started questioning if I was serious, so I had to lay it out. Yes, we're done. I'm sick of this. We are done. We're over. You're moving. We're done. Now go pretend to sleep on the couch for 15 minutes before you coming back in here and yelling more about how I didn't come rescue you from the couch. Yes, I know you that well, and I'm sick of all your BS. Go sleep in your freaking car. I don't care. We are 100% done. I'm going to sleep before you ruin my final tomorrow. We are done. I realized that I haven't physically bought my own boxers in over 5 years. When I asked her, she said, "Of course I check and throw out the ones that you can see through." I then realized the same thing for many household items like toothpaste, ketchup, toilet paper, etc. She'd already made our house a home. I'm 2 kids deep into it now, after getting married. When I could imagine a life without her, I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells with her, and I never knew if something I said would set her off. First Christmas at my parents' house, and he embraced my mom's matching Christmas pajamas tradition. The theme was a very Potter Christmas. Everyone got pajamas to represent their Hogwarts house. So he and my mom ended up in matching Hufflepuff pajamas and took loads of cute pictures together while drinking giant glasses of wine. In that moment I knew he was a permanent part of the family. We were apartment hunting, and we agreed on trying to find a 2-bedroom so that I could have an office. Extra space was really important to me for various reasons. We found a great apartment that I absolutely loved, but it was way over budget, so we couldn't get it. But the landlord called after we turned it down and was willing to give us an amazing deal because he knew us. Only I didn't know this because my boyfriend secretly turned down the offer, and we ended up moving into a tiny and expensive 1-bedroom. Turns out he liked the renovations in the small apartment and didn't think my need for space was worth giving that up. So he made the executive decision without me. Didn't tell me about it until we officially signed the lease, so there was no backing out. A little hard to trust him after that. What a jerk. She thought I was cheating on her, so as revenge she FaceTimed me with another dude balls deep inside her. I wasn't cheating on her. She didn't laugh at my jokes. It sounds stupid, but man, if your humor doesn't at least kind of match up, it ain't gonna work. Also, I'm not that funny, so really she dodged a bullet. She wasn't a one-man girl. I don't have any ill will towards her though, because she told me this before we got together. I was a college kid and she was super hot though. I was stupid. I'm currently in a situation that seems strikingly similar to what you described. As cool as this girl is, and as much as we have in common, I know I can't let myself get too attached to her, as it wouldn't ever last. Thank you for your post, washer dryer combo. He kept comparing me to random girls that he knew, as well as random girls on the street. He whined and complained a lot, so I felt like a mom instead of a girlfriend. Also, He kept trying to give me fashion advice that led me to believe he was looking for a much kinkier girl than I am. Dang, that literally sounds like a male version of my recent ex-girlfriend. Too bad some people can't accept others as they are and take them for granted. I was planning saving for my very first vacation after a hard-earned promotion and he wasn't saving anything or really caring. I realized I'd have an unenthusiastic lump tagging along on something really important to me. I knew deep down he'd sour the entire experience, so I ended it. A lot of other issues going on as well, but this made it crystal clear. I actually had a voice in my head say, he'll ruin it. She wasn't a very social person and didn't get along with people. I took her to a Thanksgiving family gathering and at one point a little cousin of mine walked past her and she mentioned out loud that she hates that little girl and how annoying she is. In front of that little girl's sister WHO is sitting right there in front of her. She was just very rude and had no social awareness. Sorry, family comes first, and even though I don't like some people, I don't say it in front of everybody and be rude about it. He wanted to party and travel. I wanted marriage and babies. We broke up so we both could pursue our dreams. Fast forward 10 years. I'm happily married with a house, 3 kids and a minivan. He's still partying and traveling. Both of us super happy with our choices. Kudos to all. Glad it worked out for you. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.